Hello and welcome to a brand new acoustic guitar series about making your acoustic guitar playing more interesting when you are playing rhythm, either when you're singing yourself or when you're accompanying a singer. Now, I've done this lots over and over the years of playing guitar, and I've found that lots of guitarists fall into the same few traps, and one of those traps is the default rhythm. And a default rhythm is usually the Green Day Time of Your Life style rhythm, but I've seen a few different variants. It tends to be something like this. And what guitarists will do when they're playing an acoustic night or an open mic night is that every single song they play, they'll end up playing the same rhythm, regardless of what the chords are, regardless of how the song's supposed to sound. And then they'll start the next song, and they got the same rhythm again. So what we're going to do here today is we're going to learn a very, very simple technique and a very, very simple way of varying this and creating a little bit more interest without a lot of extra work. We just need a little bit of thought process, okay? There are deliberately no tabs for this because what I'm going to teach you today, we're going to put all the chords we know into two categories, and then we can play whatever chord we learn over the years in these techniques, and we can apply it the exact same way, and then you can do this with every chord. You don't have to think about tabbing it out or trying to work out what you need to do. We're just going to put some simple rules in place to learn this technique. So basically we've got 4 and 5 string chords, and then we're going to have 6 string chords where we've run out of strings, so we have to do something different, okay? So we're going to start with a trusty 4 string chord, which is going to be our D major chord, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to start by picking the D string, and then we're going to strum the chord. We're just going to do that over and over again. So we get 1, 2, 3, 4. Perfect. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hopefully you're playing along at home. If not, you need to practice this stuff, because when you speed it up, you need that accuracy and make sure you can hit the same string every time while you're singing or talking or waffling over the top of it like I am, okay? Now, what we're going to do, next step, is on beat 3, so the second single note strum, we're going to move to the A string and just pick that open. So we're going to go D, A, D, A. So D, A, D, A. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Perfect. Just like that. Slowly. Just like that, okay? And that works because we're playing what's called a root 5th bass movement. And the 5th of D is A, and it just so happens that in this chord, because the guitar's tuned in 4ths, or 5ths if you go this way for the most part, there's a couple of exceptions we'll get into much further down the line, it just means that you end up playing open string and open string. It makes it nice and easy for us. And this also works for 5 string chords, such as A major, which has another open string. So you'd play the A string, E string, A strum, E strum, just like that. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it doesn't matter when you're playing this whether you hit every single string on the chord strum. You just need to hit something over that side of it. That's the advantage of holding the whole chord all the way through and letting everything ring together. We don't want start sounding a little bit more not really what we want. It starts sounding a little bit slightly flamenco, slightly European. We don't want. That's not the sound we're after today. We want everything to ring together. And this works for these two chords because they have open strings as their root note. Now, in case you're not familiar with the term, a root note is just the lowest note of the chord in all of these standard open chord positions, okay? Open chords because they have open strings. So when you play an E chord, whether it's E major or E minor, it's called E because the lowest note you're strumming is the E. When you play an A chord or A minor, you have the A string. When you play a D chord, you have the D string. When you play a C chord, this 3rd fret on the A string is the note C, and that's what gives the chord its name. So when we come into trouble with this is when we have a fretted note as our root note. We have to move that root note. And we can use the same logic. We did open string, and then open string, open string, open string, and moved up. We can do the same thing here. So for a C chord, we would play the 3rd fret on the A string, and then 3rd fret on the low E string. And obviously for this, what you want to do with your picking hand is you want to jump over the strings, particularly that A string, when you strum through there, otherwise you're going to get a muted sound or an open A, and it's not really going to work. It sounds pretty, but it's not what we want. So we'd have C. So we get 1, 2, 3, 4. And we just need to move that one note backwards and forwards. If you're crazy, you can double it up like this and use your pinky for this note and your ring finger for this note on the low E string. And then you don't have to change anything, but I kind of like the abruptness of making that bass note stand out a little bit more, or even when palm muting. So there's a lot of simple things we can do for this. And that would work exactly the same for chords which have their root note on the D string. So for example, this little F chord, or F major 7 if you're that way inclined. You want to make it sound a little bit jazzy, a little bit prettier. Works exactly the same way. Whatever your root note is on the A string, you're going to move, D string, sorry, you're going to move to the A string. And if we were on the A string, say we had a B chord like this, or in fact, we're going to do a B7. Hey, we've got False Imprisoned Blues, uses this exact same technique. So that's what we do for 4 and 5 string chords, which we've got in one category. Then what do we do for 6 string chords? We've run out of strings. Well, it's really easy. If we have a chord like E, so we play E string, strum, E string, strum, we can't go this way, so we just go back the other way, just one string. So you do E string, A string, E string, A string, E, A, E, A. Nearly dropped my pick there. So E, A, E, A, E, A. Just like that. Now the only exception is going to be, because that would still work on bar chords, still works exactly the same way. The only exception is going to be our big G major chord, which people are used to playing, which has 2 different ways. You can either use 2 fingers on these top strings, or you can use 1. Both are going to sound very, very similar and going to work exactly the same way. And the exception here is when we do the E string, and then the A string, it sounds nice, but it's not quite right, because we want to hear that root 5th movement we talked about. And the 5th of G is D. So we're playing G and then B. So although it kind of works, it's not really what we want, okay? If we want to be consistent at least, of course. At the end of the day, your ear is the guide. So what we're going to do here is we need to find a D. And we've got this open D string right here, which we're not using. So we can go E, D, E, D. In fact, what I personally would do if I was on this G chord for a long time, which makes it sound really, really interesting, is you can play a root 3rd, 5th triad. Sounds very, very complicated. We're going to make it really easy. You'd play the E string, A string, D string, A string. And now you really have got a bass line. There we go, if I play it right. So that's what we do for our 6 string chords. So we had 4 and 5 string chords where you just move whatever the bass note is, whether it's an open string or a fretted note, you move it towards the sky. So on our F chord, you would move this way. For a C chord, you'd move this way. For a D and an A, you don't have to do anything at all because you've already got those open strings helping you out. And then when we get to our 6 string chords like E, all those notes are already in the chord, so we don't have to move anything. So you'd have E, A for that, except for our G chord, which is our only exception, where we play the G, well, sorry, the note G, which is the low E string, and then D string, G, D, E, D, G, D. There we go, alternating, telling you which string it is and what the note is there.